Hello and welcome to my thoughts on My Little Pony 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. This is a 5-parter. Whoa. And like I have been doing, I will come back here after I read each one to talk about my initial thoughts and reactions before starting the next parts. Obviously, of course, I have already finished them by the point you're listening to this, and if you haven't read them yet, you can click here and I will read them for you. Alright, everyone ready? Let's go. So, we are in Zephyr Heights, specifically the Princess's Chambers. One more day until the big show / royal dinner, whatever that means. Pipp is super duper excited, and Zipp is the opposite. And then bang, bang, bang! Pipp's stalkers are outside their bedroom window. I know they have names, but I don't remember them, and honestly, I don't care to learn them as far as I'm concerned. They're not important characters. I'm sorry if the 3 pipsqueaks are your favorite characters. And after a quick little song, we finally get into the nitty-gritty of what is the royal dinner. It is a little party for every Pegasus in Zephyr Heights. A little Panem et Circenses going on, gotta keep the masses happy and in check. So Zipp is completely in charge. From choosing decorations, to silverware, to tasting food, to looking at the seating charts. So this is also Zipp's first time hosting it. And presumably, she will be hosting it every year from now on, as part of her royal duties as heir to the throne. And she is not excited. I don't think she's ever really been keen on, being heir to the throne. But unfortunately, it is her burden to bear. And she's so busy trying to make sure every little detail is perfect, that she totally forgets to check in on Pipp's rehearsal. And oh boy, she missed some drama. Some asshole covered up Pipp's giant poster with his own giant poster. Pipp is so flustered that she unfollows him on Twitter. Does she not know that she could just take it down? It is her event after all. He's not part of the show, right? It's just Pipp. I'm pretty sure that's what it seems like. So she storms back to the castle all in a tizzy, when suddenly, she walks in on Zipp, listening to that asshole's music! Ooh, what a bitch. I don't think Pipp had any intention of starting a fight. Based on the over-exaggerated ugh, it seems like she just went there to, vent and complain, if you were there, you would have been able to stop him from doing it, blah, 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 blah. Just, normal stuff. But because Zipp is listening to his music, Pipp's frustration with Karatang turns into anger at Zipp, because now it's as if Zipp has chosen his side over her own sister. And then Zipp tries to vent to Pipp, and it does not go over well, because Zipp says, but honestly, blah 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 blah, it's everything else I'm worried about. You have no idea how much work it's been preparing for the royal dinner. And Pipp relates this back to something Izzy said. Well, something Izzy says that Pipp takes out of context. What if she chose not to come? And Zipp didn't choose not to come. She was working too hard and lost track of time, which she tells Pipp and apologizes for, twice. When Zipp says, honestly, I know you've got the concert covered. It's everything else I'm worried about. I read this as Zipp, knowing that Pipp's performance is going to be great. Zipp has seen her sister perform 1,000 times over. It is the only constant. Everything else is a variable that can go horribly wrong. But Pipp is too flustered about something going wrong at her rehearsal, and Zipp not being there to fix it, to actually listen to Zipp. Pipp picks and escalates this fight. No need to exaggerate how stressful it's been. I'm not. You just pick out some food and say hi to a few ponies. You mean the entirety of Zephyr Heights? Well, maybe you're just being a defensive little bitch baby who's not trying hard enough. Zipp is pretty justified in retaliating. Then Pipp storms off and kicks a magic well, and out pops a magic Minccino? Well, I guess Minccino's based off a chinchilla. I'm just gonna call Milky Way a magic chinchilla. So Magic Chinchilla pops out and is like, I will grant you any one wish to make your life better, or something along those lines. Pipp just kind of vents to her, and she feels better and goes home. But what Milky Way gets out of that is that Zipp and Pipp should do a Freaky Friday. And that's how part 1 ends. So as with any Freaky Friday, logic would dictate that both princesses would come out of this with a newfound respect for what the other one does. But Zipp doesn't really knock on what Pipp does. So I'm going to take a little more of an edgy approach. Not even edgy, that was just the word that came to mind. But I'm going to say that Pipp is actually the only one to come out of this learning a lesson. She doesn't understand the burden her sister is bearing for her sake. Pipp gets to live her life. Performing is what she chose to do. It's how she got her cutie mark. Zipp doesn't want to be queen. She has to be queen. Look at the dichotomy in the first scene. I'm not going to say Pipp's life isn't stressful, and the anxiety she feels about performing for such a prestigious event could be what her lyrics are about. As the royal dinner has every Pegasus, I would assume it is her largest live performance. But performing is what makes her happy. Zipp, on the other hand, is visibly stressed and dreading the dinner. Zipp doesn't want to be queen. She wants to solve the mysteries of the world. Zipp got her cutie mark because she wanted to bring flight back to the Pegasi.
Before we had magic, I was always crunching numbers, trying to figure out exactly how Pegasi could fly again.
And she did. So I think by the end of the story, Pipp is going to realize what Zipp is giving up, so Pipp can live her life as an influential pop star. But maybe that's thinking too much, and we're probably just gonna get a normal Freaky Friday. That being said, I don't know how this is going to be 5 issues long. That seems like a lot of time just to do a Freaky Friday. So what, part 2 is going to be about them trying to fulfill their new responsibilities, and then part 3 is probably going to be like them trying to teach each other, and then in the end, probably just before Pipp's concert, they're gonna make up, and the spell is going to be undone, and then Pipp's going to do her concert. Maybe Zipp will even join in with her newfound experience from part 3, but what's part 4 gonna be about? And how does Milky Way actually fit into the story? Do you trust her? I currently don't really trust her. Look, just look at the way that she's cut down the middle, one half yellow, one half pink. That's just like Monokuma. She's gotta be evil. And look at her forehead. She's got a heart cut in half. Ugh, bad sign. But alright, without further ado, let's get into part 2. Alright, I have technically not finished recording 17. I am sick and cannot do the voices, but I figured I could at least record this. So, Pipp and Zipp have just gotten Freaky Friday'd, but they didn't swap bodies, everyone else's memories of them swapped, which is way more complex. And as proof, Izzy makes them dance. And turns out Zipp's kinda dog-ass, which backs up their story. So Hitch is like, okay, did you guys touch any magic things the other day? And Pipp lies. Wow, Pipp lies. But Zipp catches her in it. I do agree that Pipp did not wish for this. She was very clear with her wording. And the 5 of them set off to find Milky Way. And along the way, Pipp realizes she hasn't tweeted in 6 hours! Oh god. And forces Zipp to make a video. Which she does, Zipp does it. But then Pipp's all like, nah, it's not good enough, do it again. Pipp, bro, literally did it. Chillax. We have more important things to worry about. Pipp says Milky Way tricked her into telling her about her sister. Pipp, you totally wanted to rant about your sister. Wilbur was literally pitching to herself before Milky Way showed up. And turns out Milky Way can't undo the magic. It can only be undone when the wish comes true. This is very similar, extremely similar in fact, to what Starlight does with Celestia Luna, and I'm okay with that. Pipp just cannot relax. The royal dinner tonight is the biggest event of the year. And so is the royal concert too. Bro, the royal concert is one small part of the whole dinner. Zipp cares about everything. Stop focusing on your one aspect. I don't know why I'm suddenly bro-pilled, but I'm just saying it left and right. Milky Way is a weird character. It's literally just like different Discord. I don't know how I feel about Milky Way in general, but I don't really care, honestly. And after confronting Milky Way, the princesses decide the only thing to do is to pretend to be each other. Like I said in the last part, Pipp is still being the aggressor. Smack Zipp with a towel.
So technically, this is all your fault. It takes extraordinary charm and skill to be an influential pop star. You'll never hack it.
Man, Pipp really be bragging about how influential she is, but I'm pretty sure the queen of the Pegasi is a much more influential figure. And still, Zipp says, I'm sorry. What's that, the third time Zipp's apologized so far? And Pipp's still at 0? So Milky Way said that the spell can't be undone until the wish comes true. She says specifically, you wanted Zipp to understand and appreciate the pressures you deal with as an influential pop star, and now she will. It feels like Zipp basically already understands and appreciates Pipp, but Pipp is also affected by this wish. And I would logic that the same would have to also work for Pipp in order for the spell to break. She will have to understand and appreciate the pressure Zipp deals with, which I'm pretty sure is the main part of this story, because Pipp does not give a shit about what Zipp does. But I think that's all I have to say for this part. Oh, one more thing. I loved Izzy in this, in this issue. So good. And with that, barring some lingering throat irritation, I am no longer sick. Wow. Issue 18 starts off with a mirror of issue 16. Zipp is singing, and Pipp is picking out soap. A lot of soap. So much soap. So Zipp's rehearsal goes, not that great. Her dancing is too wonky, and she can't keep up, and she trips over a wire, and she pulls down a speaker or some kind of large electronic device. Oops. To be fair, who ran this wire across the stage? I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to be there. Hello? Fortunately, she also turned the lights off. Thanks, Izzy, for that shining optimism. Then Zipp has the brilliant idea. She needs an audience to watch her, which, won't magically solve all her problems, but it will help her get into the headspace for the show tonight. So she calls up her Zipp Squeaks, but uh-oh, they're all sick. Or tired, or busy. One of those three, they can't decide. And it turns out that son of a bitch Karatang has been spreading fake news. That bitch. He said that Zipp finds all of her followers annoying. Which is not false for Zipp, but Karatang, of course, is talking about Pipp. Which Pipp, of course, doesn't think they're annoying. She loves the attention. Oh, he's trying to get Pipp Zipp cancelled. Which Zipp aids in doing. Uh-oh. You wanna fucking go, bitch? I'll have some assassins assassinate your ass. Metaphorically speaking, of course. For heir to the throne, that wasn't a very tactful way of dealing with this. But it's her choice to make. She's not currently heir to the throne, so she doesn't have to follow those rules. She gets to do things the way she wants. At Pipp's expense, because it does not go well. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Pipp gets tired of picking out soap. So she turns to TikTok. And I guess she researches all the popular Pegasi creators. And she basically just makes a carnival inside the castle. I was talking about Panem et Circenses earlier, but literally now, Panem et Circenses. Not that I expect you guys to understand ancient Latin phrases. It is a phrase that metaphorically means superficial appeasement and translates to bread and circuses. So back in the days of the Roman Empire, this one guy wrote some paper and he was like, back in my day, we voted for people we respected, but now these youngins just want their bread and circuses. Or something, along those lines. It's like voting people into power based on what cool perks you get, and not the actual merits of the person being elected. Pipp just over here trying to one-up Zipp.
Oh, hey, Hitch, this is gonna be the greatest royal dinner ever. Zipp was gonna do some boring thing, but I actually know what my subjects want. If you see her, make sure you tell her how much better everything is.
So, Pipp got rid of the actual dinner part of the royal dinner and replaced it with more entertainment. That was kind of the point of the concert? Ah, who needs the dinner? That was just the part that was meant to show the Pegasi that the royal family actually cares about them.
I am betting she hasn't even started working on her speech.
Because of course we know Zipp never got around to doing it. That was the one thing she was actually stuck on. You know, the part where she actually has to convince the masses that she is worthy to be their next queen.
But Pipp is thinking short-sightedly. She isn't thinking about how this event affects public opinion of the monarchy.
And that's her right. She doesn't have to. She has to do this event one time, and she's trying to make it the best she can.
She doesn't need to know that simple appeasement isn't good enough in the long run.
She wasn't trained in this shit.
But this does go back to something Sunny says to Pipp in part 1. This isn't about your sister. It's about celebrating an incredibly important tradition. Pipp really is making everything about Zipp. She is not focused on the bigger picture. And if Pipp had decided to replace the concert with the carnival, that would have been fantastic. But the problem is, Pipp couldn't give up her concert and decided to get rid of everything else that she didn't care about.
Zipp, on the other hand,
abandoned her duties for the concert, but not because she doesn't care about it. She's actually fulfilling the greater purpose of the dinner, showing the common ponies that she cares. Something's going on with the pipsqueaks, so Zipp decides to check in on them, and brings them a get-well basket.
Then she gets wrapped up on the whole Karatang subquest, and this is where it starts to diverge.
She does not have much tact when dealing with Karatang. I can't imagine that this is how she was trained to deal with conflict, throwing her royal weight around. Her actions here are kind of opposite of what the dinner is about, and Sunny even informs her on how she thinks Pipp would handle the situation. She doesn't care what Pipp would do, she doesn't care what she was trained to do. For once, this is her choice.
She kinda treats it like she's a cop. Just pulls him off the streets, interrogates and threatens him.
That's my detective. And then Zipp gets a wake-up call that this is in fact still not her destiny. Poor Zipp.
It's hard to say the stuff with Karatang is really Zipp's fault. She didn't help it, but she did try. Same goes with Pipp, honestly. While she would be liable because, she did, spill the mud on the floor and create a hazardous working environment. It wasn't really her fault everything kind of exploded. Honestly, I have faith in both Zipp and Pipp to understand that what went wrong wasn't the other's fault. Barring some initial shock.
You got me cancelled? No, Karatang got you cancelled. I just threatened to beat him up. Aw, you threatened to beat him up for me?
You know, something like that. I have complete faith in our princesses. So I imagine what will be happening next is the girls will join forces and work together to combat the crazy circumstances that have arisen. Like, they're both at their lowest right now, so they're gonna have to start to realize that they do in fact need each other's help. Because after all, they are meddling with each other's lives. And issue 19 opens with Pipp running into Zipp and then bragging about how well everything's going.
She's still lying.
Last issue, Sunny's all like,
Pipp always says the best policy is to just be honest.
Pipp hasn't been honest at all! And it's not until her failures almost kill Zipp that she finally confesses. Zipp's just following in kind. If Pipp's being a jerk, she's a jerk. If Pipp lies, she lies. God, I'm really curious what the moral of this story is going to end up being. Because honestly, I just have this feeling that even though so far everything just kind of is Pipp's fault, the writer's just gonna arbitrarily pull Zipp down with her. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and wait for the next issue to conclude to go on about that. But anyway, Pipp and Zipp agree to work together and help each other with their respective problems. Pipp helps Zipp make an apology video and helps her with the choreography, and Zipp helps clean up and teaches Pipp, well, attempts to teach Pipp the names of every pony in Zephyr Heights. It goes okay. Neither one really get a grasp on what they're supposed to be actually doing, but they don't have a lot of time left. But it's nice to finally see them get along. Meanwhile, Sunny, Hitch, and Izzy meet up with Misty out of nowhere. I was not expecting Misty to pop in. But here she is, Misty's here now. Still waiting for Sparky to show his face. but we got Misty at least. So the four of them ambush Panini, and he goes on about his Milky Way story. Milky Way operates very interestingly. So Panini wished to open up a restaurant, but Milky Way was like, alright, so first you're gonna need a lot of money. So I got you this better job. And just so you can work longer, I'm gonna put a spell on you so you can't fall asleep. Like, I get that she can't just magic the land into existence and have it be recognized as his property under Zephyr Heights law. But there had to be a more straightforward way she could have done this, right? She literally has reality-bending magic, but she deals with it so realistically, it's weird. And has it also really been 2 years since magic was restored to Equestria? We, just kinda finished the first arc of the story with Opaline. Which I guess is technically the second arc, 'cause the first arc is the movie. Time sure is flying. But anyway, Zephyr Heights canceled the Milky Way, and that's why she's feeling defensive about reversing her wish.
And then Sunny gets a genius plan. She's gonna fuck everything up.
Only one thing got Milky Way to reverse her wish last time, and that was public shame and humiliation. We're just gonna have to recreate that. So Sunny goes and gets more mud and throws it all over the castle. Hell yeah. What a plan, Sunny. Poor Misty. She had no clue what Sunny dragged her into. She just wanted to help Milky Way. But Sunny couldn't have planned what happened next. After getting spited by Sunny, Milky Way decides to spite them right back and creates a giant tornado thunderstorm so that the royal dinner has to get canceled. Oh god, everything's getting canceled today. But Queen Haven's words are still ringing in my ear. We're not canceling the royal dinner. They're gonna pull something out their butts. They're going to have to calm Milky Way down to deal with the storm. That is literally the only way forward, right? They're gonna crawl back to Milky Way, beg and plead. Please cancel the tornado. Just help us clean up the mud, okay? And then we'll do everything just right and you'll be famous. Honestly, Misty's coming to save the day here, right? That's why she got brought in and is on Milky Way's side. Misty's a good guy. One of her best qualities is her kindness. And in some weird Fluttershy Discord spin-off, Misty's gonna get the gang and Milky Way to reconcile, and then everything will be happily ever after the end. Well, not the end. That's just the end of the tornado problem. Zipp and Pipp still have to, do their thing to finish the wish. But I mean, they're basically almost there, right? And I do know the spoilies. I know spoilies. They get their cutie mark switched back during the concert. An unfortunate casualty I had to endure because I needed to verify that the lyrics used at the final performance were the same ones used during rehearsal. I needed to record the song up front in issue 16. And there were more words in the final performance. Good thing I checked. But anyway, issue 20 starts off with a terrible storm. The royal dinner is getting cancelled after all. Pip's wish might not have come true yet, but Zipp's just has. Pipp and Zipp are super bummed. Izzy's having a grand old time jumping on Pip's bed and making weird pineapple cupcake s'mores. She's just having a great time. But Misty is also sad. Not because the royal dinner is cancelled, but because everyone was so mean to Milky Way. And then Sunny and Izzy inspire Pipp and Zipp to live stream the royal dinner instead. Yay, problem solved. That's a much better plan than your previous one, Sunny. That last one, oh boy, that was not your best moment. It's a good thing every pony has a phone, right? But every pony's still a little pissy with Zipp, and they're hashtag boycotting the royal concert. So Pipp comes up with the idea, well, guess we gotta collab with Karatang. On the subject of Karatang, I don't think he's that bad. He has the appearance of a douchebag, but I don't think he's actually a douchebag. Sure, the first words out of his mouth, looks like the storm blew some trash onto my front porch. But it was a joke, and then he invites her inside. Like, it mostly seems like an act. Especially combined with his song later on. All the theatrics, I do it for you. And I was right. Pipp hasn't even started her speech. She's writing it right now. But she can't come up with anything, so she just wings it. Meanwhile, good girl Misty, running out in the storm, trying to get in contact with Milkyway. Honestly, I've come around to Misty. She started off a pretty dumb character, but once she finally, got her cutie mark and had like 3 episodes that finally actually developed her character, I like her. But anyway, Milkyway saves Misty from the tornado, and Misty's all like, oh gee golly gosh, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve all the shit we gave you. I hope Pipp and Zipp can make it up to you with the royal dinner tonight. Then Milkyway's like, what the fuck? I canceled that shit! And she storms off. Honestly, Milky Way probably did Pipp a solid. Her speech was not going well, and Milky Way's interruption honestly just gave her more time to collect her thoughts. But then Zipp comes in, saves the day. You got this, Pipp. And that was all Pipp needed. And for the first time, Pipp finally apologizes. Hell yeah, that's character development right there, baby. So she gives a great apology speech, which is honestly right up in her wheelhouse. I'm assuming she wrote Zipp's apology video. And honestly, Pipp's speech kind of just mirrors Zipp's apology. Like, no shot she didn't write it for Zipp, right? And with the royal dinner concluded, it's time for the concert, baby! And Carrot Tank's performance goes great, and then every pony wants Zipp, 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 Zipp! And then Zipp and Pipp perform together. Bam! Cutie mark switcheroo undone! The end. So the ending is pretty funny. I did appreciate the whole Pipp commenting on Zipp's appearance and then Zipp accidentally making a wish thing. That was quite amusing. So I got some weird feelings about this story. So it's like pretty slowly paced. It all takes place over one day, and you know they're just getting ready for one event. And the big climactic character development at the end? Pipp finally says sorry. It doesn't feel like a lot happened despite it being 5 whole parts. When you think 5-parter, you think, oh boy, something epic must be happening. But the payoff is just, sorry Zipp, I was being kind of a bitch earlier, my bee. Don't get me wrong, I greatly enjoyed the story. I just am a little confused on, why this got a 5-part series. That being said, I feel like they utilized their 5 whole parts very well. Despite it being such a simplistic plot, every scene feels like it belongs. Quite often in these comics, there's like 2 or 3 pages of a scene that just don't contribute anything to the plot or the characters, and sometimes aren't even fun to read through. And that even happens in stories that are 1 or 2 parts. But somehow, in this 100-page story, where all the buildup is simply leading to Pipp saying, I'm sorry, I can maybe pick out 2 fluffy scenes. There is this moment in issue 17, where it's 1 whole page that simply tells us 3 hours have passed. Don't get me wrong, the passing of 3 hours is relevant to the flow of the plot. It is why Pipp and Zipp start arguing. But I mean, at the same time, we could have just had a little yellow narration box that says, 3 hours later. And, Hitch, little being afraid of heights thing, it's like, kinda okay funny, and it leads into a bit for later, so it's like, okay. Is he just spouting out wishes left and right, trying to find Milky Way? That's, moderately amusing. It's just a pretty fluffy page. And the second fluffy scene is the follow-up bit of Hitch being afraid of heights. This page is quite a bit more fun than Izzy just wishing for 3 hours. Is it a whole page worth of fun? Not really, but it's still pretty good. And it also makes me think that Hitch has PTSD from issue 9. Rip Hitch. And that's it. Those 2 pages are the only parts that don't really cleanly fit in. Pretty impressive. Topic change. Misty. She plays a pretty unique role in this story. So the collective theme of the story, more or less, is selfishness. And the story focuses on the 5 groups of Zipp, Pipp, the collective of Sunny, Hitch, and Izzy, Milky Way, and Misty. Okay, I know I clapped and said topic change Misty, but I really do have to talk about everyone else first before I get to Misty. Let's talk about Zipp first. I know I already talked about Zipp earlier, but just to briefly summarize, in this story, Zipp is rather selfless. This story starts off with Zipp submitting to her role as heir to the throne. She doesn't want to be setting up and hosting the royal dinner, but it is a burden she bears, and she really does put a lot of effort into it. She iterates it over and over again. All I want is for the royal dinner to be a success. Zipp is a reactive character in this story. She doesn't go looking for the plot. The plot comes to her and she reacts. And because of this, Zipp doesn't really have a choice to be selfish. She does try to push for the royal dinner to be cancelled, but the queen does not let her have that choice. It is not until Milky Way switches her cutie mark that Zipp finally has a chance to make a choice. And with this choice, she is selfish. The choice, of course, being how to deal with Karatang. Sunny tells her how Pipp would respond, but Zipp is a little spiteful. She doesn't care what Pipp would do. Pipp doesn't think Zipp can do this. Pipp is constantly on Zipp's ass.
You don't have what it takes to be a pop star. You'll never hack it.
So you know what? Zipp's gonna prove her wrong, and she's gonna do it her own way. And for this response, Zipp is punished. The only part of the royal dinner that she was sure was going to go well was the concert. And now she just blew it up. And from this moment on, Zipp gets no more choices. That was her one shot, and, didn't go well. Alright, so let's move on to Pipp. Pipp is the main character. Pipp is a proactive character, unlike her sister. She seeks out the plot and pushes it forward. Pipp has quite a selfish opening. She is so excited for the royal dinner because she gets to be on stage with all eyes on her thinking she's fabulous. But there are a particular set of eyes that promised to be at the rehearsal that didn't show up. It's hard to dissect exactly why Pipp has a mini freakout when Zipp doesn't show up to the rehearsal. It's not super clear. But what is clear is that this event is the catalyst for the whole story. And this is where we're also introduced to the selfish sub-theme. Not listening to others. She chose not to come? In this particular instance, this breakdown in communication is rather harmless. Pipp's not meaning to be selfish, she's not ignoring Izzy, she's just preoccupied with her own thoughts. It, however, does plant some seeds in Pipp's head. And then Karatang shows up. Pipp promised him an inch, he wanted a mile, and Pipp didn't want to give him one of her 8,000 miles. You know, it's like if Bill Gates donated $100 to St. Jude. On the surface, it's not a selfish action, but it does feel hollow in retrospect. Pipp has a fair point. Should have asked before just throwing posters everywhere. But he is not false. She doesn't need posters promoting her concerts at her concert. And this is very reminiscent of something Pipp says in the opening of 17. When Zipp goes to greet the Zipsqueaks, Pipp slams the curtain shut. I did not spend years building my enduring fanbase for you to reap the benefits. Honestly, Karatang, doesn't really start shit here. Pipp said she would help advertise. He just wanted to hang a poster at her concert. It's Pipp retracting her promise to advertise in the form of unfollowing Karatang that causes the future Karatang problem. And then Pipp goes back to the castle, ready to complain to Zipp about her problems, when BAM! She gets spit roasted. Not only did Zipp not show up to the rehearsal, she skipped it to listen to Karatang instead. This obviously isn't what happened, and Zipp tries to explain why she didn't show up, but it's how Pipp perceives it. And from this moment on, any perceived slight from Zipp causes Pipp to pick a fight. Issue 16. Sorry I missed your rehearsal. Fight. Issue 17. Zipp, make a clip trot. Okay. No, wasn't good enough, do it again. No. Fight. Milky Way won't switch back their cutie marks. Smack Zipp with a towel. Bro, this is your fault. No, it's your fault for missing my rehearsal. Fight. Well, not actually a fight, because Zipp specifically does not engage in the fight. Issue 18, they actually don't fight because they don't interact at all. Issue 19, Pipp runs into Zipp as she's making a sandwich.
Watch where you're going. This is your fault for hiding in the dark.
Fight. That fortunately gets quickly interrupted by Mud. And this is a perfect time to introduce the other sub-theme, honesty. Pipp, despite preaching honesty, does not practice it. So Pipp's first lie is in issue 16 to Milky Way. Honestly, it's pretty harmless, much like her not listening to Izzy earlier. But then, she opens issue 17 with a crazy lie.
No, I totally did not see and or interact with anything magically out of the ordinary yesterday.
And Zipp, much like she later does with Karatang, and even in Make Your Mark with Misty, has to call her out on her bullshit. I have always attributed honesty more with Zipp than to Pipp. Zipp is a detective. She seeks the truth. After all, Zipp was the one who blew the whistle on the Pegasi royalty not actually being able to fly. At the end of 17, Pipp does say, I think we need to tell every pony in Zephyr Heights the truth about our cutie marks. And Zipp says, no, we shouldn't. And technically the sentence does contain the phrase, tell every pony the truth. Which you would think, honesty, right? Honesty. But both Zipp and Pipp are approaching this from a selfish point of view. Zipp doesn't want to loop everyone into their family drama, which, I mean, fair. She just wants the royal dinner to go well. And arbitrarily telling every pony could make it not go well. While Pipp wants to tell every pony out of fear. She is scared, and in a state of complete confusion. She doesn't know what's going on, and she feels very lost and powerless. To quote her projection onto her fans. Okay, so, you know how I said earlier that every scene just felt like it belonged and fit in? Well, one of the consequences of that is that every scene has relevant information or characterizations to talk about. And there are a lot of scenes, and we've already been here for 40 minutes. I gotta speed this up. I'll summarize the rest of Pipp real quick. Lie lot, but say authenticity and honesty good. A very hollow meaning, like Bill Gates giving St. Jude $100. Just as hollow as her attempt at making the royal dinner, so much better than anything Zipp could have done. Pipp doesn't actually care about the ponies, she just cares about their image of her. Cut to this pony almost getting killed by Ferris wheel as evidence. In terms of specifically this night, the royal dinner, I don't mean in general in every circumstance, obviously Pipp isn't that shallow, I know. It is due to her lack of understanding about what the night is really about, and all she cares about is her concert. Issue 19, Pipp try lie again, but before Zipp calls her out, ceiling collapse, mud everywhere. Zipp does lie to Pipp as well, but much like with the fighting and everything, Zipp always responds to Pipp in kind. If Pipp lies, Zipp lies. If Pipp fights, Zipp fights back. Pipp forced to come clean and tell the truth, Zipp does the same. Pipp is actually caught off guard by this. After the ceiling collapses, Pipp exclaims, "Everything's a mess! Happy?" Obviously, Zipp is not happy if Pipp had been listening to her at all. The only thing Zipp wants is for the royal dinner to go well. And when Zipp responds, "I messed something up too," immediate critique from Pipp.
I told you being a pop star was tough.
Pipp was expecting Zipp to "I told you so," and then ended up "I told you so"ing Zipp. Anyway, apology video also very hollow. Zipp say words, not mean them. Not her lesson to be learned. It is in fact the very thing that Pipp needs to do. Which is funny because presumably she's the one who wrote this. Every pony sees through apology video, knows it's insincere. Pipp decides, okay, gotta take a blow to my ego, but I know how to make an actual sincere effort. Collab with Karatang. It's hard to say when Pipp exactly learns her lesson. But I think it's right here, when Pipp and Zipp are making their announcement video for the virtual royal dinner. Pipp's just going through the motions, got her YouTuber voice on.
Hey guys, you're all invited to my virtual royal dinner.
And then Zipp just out of nowhere, super sincere. Right now, it might seem like there's a lot of distance between us, but we're all family, and we know how to come together when it counts. Her speechcraft paying off. She has finally reached Pipp. Oh, and by the way, you know how Zipp has put all of her effort into writing the speech for the royal dinner? Well, turns out that was the, very last thing Pipp decided to do. Started working on it 5 minutes before the event. Just another reminder of where Pip's priorities have been and how she has viewed the royal dinner throughout this whole story. Anyway, Pipp reused apology video as speech, but sincere and targeted to Zipp. Pipp learn lesson, listen to others, don't just choose fight. The end for Pipp. Which Pip's the main character, so of course hers was 9 minutes long, but everyone else is gonna be nice and short, I promise. Alright, Sunny. And Hitch and Izzy, but I mean, Sunny basically speaks for all of them. They all get lumped together. Sunny, Hitch, and Izzy are support roles. They are here to help their friends, from tracking Milky Way and trying to get her to reverse the wish, to helping Pipp and Zipp fulfill each other's roles, as well as setting up the virtual royal dinner. The problem is, Pipp and Zipp are characters whose interests don't exactly align. And when Zipp and Pipp get a little distracted from trying to one-up each other, they step in and suggest what the other princess might do in this situation.
Pipp always says her best performances are with an audience. Pipp always says the best policy is to just be honest.
And although he doesn't go Zipp always says, Hitch does the same with Pipp. Why is there a Ferris wheel? That's a lot of stuff. And what about the dinner part of the royal dinner? He's still there as Zipp's proxy. Sunny, Izzy, and Hitch are good friends to Pipp and Zipp. When Zipp wants to corner Carrot Tank and confront him, Izzy and Sunny are hesitant. You want to trap him? That doesn't seem nice. You didn't say anything about threats. This isn't right, Zipp. But Sunny has no problem suggesting and doing the same to Milky Way in the previous issue. We need to take Milky Way by surprise. And then in issue 19, after hearing how Panini publicly shamed Milky Way into reversing his wish, Sunny gets the bright idea, yo, what if we tried that? When Zipp gets aggressive with Carrot Tank, oh gee golly gosh Zipp, you shouldn't have done that. That's not what Pipp would have done. But when she wants to do it to Milky Way, give this woman a medal, A+ plan, and everyone just goes along with it, no questions asked. Well, except for one question, asked by Misty. What about Milky Way? Pipp has ponies like Sunny, Hitch, Izzy, Zipp, who support her. Sunny's mud plan is selfish. It doesn't help preparations for the royal dinner at all. It actually hinders it. They go back and add all the mud they cleaned up. The only thing the plan does is spite Milky Way, which was Sunny's exact intent. Milky Way and Pipp are very similar characters. Her introduction mirrors the sentiments of Pipp's opening lines.
I am the one and only legendary wishing well nymph Milky Way. You can bow if you like. It's not necessary, but it is welcome.
Much like Pipp, Milky Way wants to be seen and recognized by everyone. According to Sunny's little book, wishing well nymphs are competitive and spend their whole lives trying to grant more wishes than their family members. Oh gee, how coincidental that that's the exact plot of this story. Pipp trying to one-up Zipp. But a key difference between Milky Way and Pipp is that Milky Way has no support. She doesn't have friends like Sunny, Izzy, or Hitch. No one's helping her get her happy ending. She has to fight for it herself, and that is exactly what she does. Fight. Because of Panini, her pride has been damaged. She is so ashamed that she goes into hiding for 2 years. So naturally, she feels the need to restore that pride. That is her desire. That is her happy ending. But Sunny, and Pipp, and Zipp, and Izzy, and Hitch are actively fighting to stop it. Well, I know I said Milky Way had no support, but she does gain one supporter in Misty. Almost all of Misty's dialogue is exclusively standing up for Milky Way. I'm sure she didn't mean for it to come to this. But much like the rest of the story, no one really listens to her and is like, she got what she deserved. It makes sense that Milky Way doesn't accept Misty's apology because she's never had anyone trying to help her before. And the last time Misty was here, she walked right into an ambush. Not that Misty knew it was an ambush, but still. Unfortunately, though, there isn't really, any kind of resolution with Milky Way or Misty. In the end, Pipp finally apologizes, sure, but what about poor Misty? She braved a tornado cane just so she could apologize to Milky Way? And that's where the story leaves it. No one apologizes to Misty. Sorry, we've been ignoring you and not listening. We were kind of assholes. We should have handled that better. The writers took her to the end zone, but didn't let her get a home run. And honestly, I don't really get it.
And in the end, Pipp is still obviously we're heroes for surviving that chaos, bitch.
Even though The wish worked. Everything was perfect. Every pony got what they needed. Except for Misty. She didn't get anything in the end. Sorry, Misty. Milky Way and Misty just didn't get the respect they deserved in the end. And finally, with that, I'm done yapping. Wow, time for the art changes. 1. In this panel here, I added the chain and lock on Zipp and Pip's balcony. Because what the hell are those kids doing here? Fucking stalkers? Hello? Get away! 2. The sniff here was kind of small and got pixelated, so I just made it bigger. 3. In this panel here of Zipp looking at her phone, I moved the text boxes just so it looked a little cleaner. I slightly colored them blue. And I fixed a typo. They left out the G in Karatang's name, so I threw that in. Man, speaking of typos, there generally aren't too many in these pony comics. But oh boy daddy, there's like 4 in this series. The biggest L of them all, hoofs. Hoofs? Seriously? Hoofs? How did that one make it to print? Crazy. 4. All of Zipp's narration boxes are colored light pink, which is also the exact same color as Pip's coat, so I recolored them to be more white. 5. I swapped these 2 panels around. Just for the flow of editing, I just figured it would be better to have Zipp stumbling and then falling back to back. 6. When we're originally shown Pip's speech, the page is completely blank. I copy-pasted some of the sentences from the second time we're shown her speech, just so I could do something with the panel in editing. 7. This little text box that says, "Very important pony. Thank you for clarifying what VIP meant. I had no clue what it could have possibly meant in this scenario." It's originally white. I recolored it narration box yellow. 8. This is the original panel for Zipp showing up the piece of paper that says, "You've got it, Pip." Since I show 4 different versions of this scene, I figured I might as well clarify what the actual one is. And yes, technically, I do know you can't just turn a piece of paper around and expect the text to be on that side magically. I know it shouldn't be there, but it was funny. 9. I changed it from "you zipped" to "you pipped." Because, look, if Milky Way made all of Pip's posters magically turn into Zipp posters, then all Zipp memes should become Pip memes when the magic is undone. That's just how life works. Also, I lowercased the W in when because I wanted to. And 10, lastly, when Blue Pegasus Pipsqueak takes a picture of Zipp and Pip in the phone camera, Pip's leg is blue, and magically becomes Zipp's hoof. So I just properly recolor it to be Pip's hoof instead. It's just a little coloring oopsie, those happen, we don't make fun of those. We will, however, continue to make fun of hoofs. And that's it! Video is finally done. Yay. I was pleasantly surprised with this story. Once I realized it was a 5-part Freaky Friday, I really thought the story would just be filled with dead filler space. But it was the opposite. The story was so jam-packed with important character moments and scenes that we didn't even have time for Sunny to apologize to Misty. This story was pretty good. You know I must have liked it because not once did I ever say, "This was a nice story." It was just straight out good. I was a little whatever on Milky Way basically the whole time, but actually sitting here and talking about the story for an hour straight makes me appreciate what they actually did with the character. She was a nice foil for Pip. It would have been nice if we did spend more time with Milky Way and Misty. Why did Misty suddenly get thrown in on part 3? She should have been here earlier. It does also feel like Zipp got too much screen time. I understand why. Zipp's character is kind of just used to compare and contrast with Pip. Not that I didn't like her character in this. Just maybe we could have gotten a little less Zipp and a little more Misty. Really, I just liked every character in this. I mean, Panini wasn't really a character. Hitch barely does anything. Izzy barely does anything, but God, those s'mores. Everyone else, though, you know, the characters with actual substance. 10 out of 10. Anyways, those have been my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and Karatang did nothing wrong.